This is not really a running story, but it's related to the title and theme of today's book. So here it goes. I originally didn't go to university at the age when most people would go. I ended up doing a 3-year technical degree in nursing at CEGEP, and this gave me a job right away after. For those of you that have no idea what CEGEP is, it's really like specific to the province of Quebec here, and it's a 2-year sort of gap between high
Like a
school and
technical
university.
college sort
Yes,
of
and
arrangement.
it's also mixed because you can do a 3-year technical program. Nursing was one of them, but there are others. And the technical programs, the intention is, I mean, I guess you could go to university later, but you don't have to because those programs are usually geared towards you having a job at the end. So I did one of these. And I got a job after I finished. And about 5 years after about 5 years of working, I had the itch to try something else. And I was accepted to Concordia University in industrial engineering in 2009 as a mature student. Having graduated high school in 1998, I hadn't done any math for over a decade. And in my first year, I had to do a bunch of advanced math including calculus, because I hadn't done those previously. I remember sitting in class and madly scribbling every single note the teacher wrote on the board. None of them made sense, and I would spend hours sitting in front of my practice problems, but unable to do most of them. Luckily, I can be a bit stubborn, and I was too stubborn to admit that I couldn't do it. After failing my midterm, I just kept showing up to class, and eventually something clicked. The problems I wasn't able to do in the midterm suddenly made sense. It was like magic. It's like when you're training and you've hit a plateau, and this is how it relates to running. If you keep going, usually you'll eventually have some kind of breakthrough. You just have to resist the urge to protect your ego and just show up every day and keep training. Our guest today is proof of just that. Hi, and welcome to the Running Book Reviews podcast, where we review books written for runners, about runners, and by runners to help you decide if you'd like to read the book for yourself. We also hope that listening to us chat about running can help keep you motivated about your own running or maybe inspire you to try something new. My name is Liz, and with my co-host Alan, we're going to talk with author Ash Varley about his book, What If?
What If is the story of Ash Varley's running journey between 2016 and 2023. At 43, with years of running experience behind him, he wondered if dedication, patience, and a willingness to break free from the comfort zone could lead to the realization of long-held running dreams. In this book, he explores how he ended up running multiple sub-3-hour marathons and 100-mile trail races. Along the way, he talks about surprising himself with his ability when he's able to get out of his own way, how he is inspired mid-race by random strangers, and the importance of being surrounded by people who believe in you. Let me tell you a bit about Ashley Varley, or Ash as we're going to refer to him during our chat. Ash lives with his wife in the seaside town of Hastings in East Sussex. For those of you who don't live in the UK, Hastings is very famous for the 1066 Battle of Hastings. William the Conqueror arriving from everybody in England knows Hastings for the Battle of Hastings, the Bayeux Tapestry, and the famous battle of the invasion of and eventually conquering of UK by the French in 1066. He works as a gardener, and when he's not helping nature grow, he's enjoying it while running, sometimes for a very long time and a very long distance. Since he started running several years ago, Ash has had many road and trail races, varying from 10K road races to 100 milers through the woods, up steep mountain trails, and sometimes across country borders. What If is Ash's first book. So, welcome to the podcast, Ash.
Well, thank you for that introduction, and thank you very much for having me. That synopsis was absolutely brilliant. I should have got you to write that before the book was published. So that was very good. But yeah, thank you so much for your interest in my story and for having me on.
So, we'll ask you the first question we ask most people. What made you decide to write this book? And how long did it take you?
Yeah, because we know that that's quite an undertaking.
You're telling me. So it was really, I guess, it's a COVID thing. So I had far too much time on my hands with the COVID pandemic, and I'd been running for some years, and I felt that there was something in my story. But really, it started as a personal thing. I thought, I wonder if I can actually do this. Can I actually sit down and write a book? And so it started during COVID. And I think I must have got about halfway through it, and it was all becoming quite a struggle. And I put it away for about a year or so. And then I was determined to finish it. And so I went back to it. And yeah, and so I ended up with a manuscript, something that was kind of readable, had it edited, and then I ran it past a couple of friends who, when I say friends, they kind of know my story, but not fully. And yeah, they both enjoyed it. So I thought, why don't I just go ahead and publish this thing? And that's what I did. I self-published it, and there it is out there. And yeah, so it really began, I guess, because of the COVID pandemic.
And how did you decide on the title, What If? For the listeners, it's what if question mark. It's like a question, basically. But we
Okay,
kind of have an idea about why, but
I went through so many titles, but
you
but
must have.
so many subtitles actually, because of course it's a subtitle, The Running Journey from Failure to First Place. But the what if, I think that sums up the story completely in two words of a runner who had been running for some years, had kind of plateaued, had maybe stopped trying, probably is the fairest way of putting it, and who one day thought, what if? What if I really tried? What if I really got the best out of the potential that I have? And I guess the answer was no. And so that's where it came from. What if I really tried? I wonder what would happen. And that's the story of my journey, and probably many people's journeys. And I hope that's the inspiration from the book, that I'm just an ordinary runner who decided one day to try and then see what would happen and where we could take this thing. And that's the journey I've been on really ever since.
And so just so people can have a little bit of idea, like where, how you started running and everything. When did you start to run?
Right. So I don't know if this kind of thing happens in Canada, but we have obviously many races across the UK, and in Hastings we actually have a fairly famous half marathon that's been going for some nearly 40 years now. And a group of work colleagues way back in 1999 decided, a couple of them were runners, and they decided we would put a team together for charity. And that's where it was born out of, really. And I
Oh,
was in,
wow.
yeah, I was in my mid 20s then. I hadn't really done any physical exercise for some years, but I thought, half marathon, it'll be fine. I'm still fairly fit. It won't be a problem. And so I
Well,
signed on for the team.
what's the worst that could happen?
What's the
What's
worst
the
that could
worst that could
happen?
happen?
Yeah.
Well, the worst that could happen was I set off on my first run. Half a mile in, I'd stopped twice. I felt violently ill. I was coughing like I'd smoked all of my life, so I've never smoked a cigarette once. And it was the most horrific experience I've ever gone through. And it was a kind of a wake up call. Do you think, my word, I'm 27. What kind of state is this to be in at 27? And I think with a lot of runners who start out, some probably quit maybe because the first few weeks, as you'll know yourselves, is very hard. It's
Mm,
getting over that kind
yeah.
of sedentary thing into becoming active. But I persevered, and I somehow got myself into a position where I was able to complete this thing. Not pretty by any stretch, but I got through it. And I guess for the next 4 or 5 years, we would do this thing every year. If Hastings Half would come around in March, I would kind of begin training after Christmas. I'd do that, and then I'd stop again.
So you were a
And
runner for basically 3 months of the year.
yeah, absolutely. And then, I kind of got more serious about it. Joined a running club, and it kind of grew and grew. Really started with 5K races and 10K races, and then wanted to do more half marathons, and then maybe the marathon distance. And yeah, and so for the first sort of half of my running life, that's what happened. I would just run with my club, and I would Hastings runners, and I would And yeah, but the way I went about it was interesting looking back. But we live and learn, don't we? It was I was
Hmm.
kind of one of them runners that did that thing of doesn't matter what running I was doing, it was always at one pace. It was
I think that's not uncommon. That's
oh,
like
Yeah.
actually a very common story
Yeah, and
in like runners.
it leads a lot of people to conclude that they're not really a runner or not
yeah,
a
sure.
runner. This feeling that they get, when in fact they should be taking it a lot easier and being more consistent.
It was kind of like it was never fast enough to be tempo running or effort running, but it was never slow enough to be easy miles. I was in that
Yeah,
Mm.
awful middle thing that's so easy to fall into, and yeah, and that's what yeah. So looking back, it was yeah, all a little bit ad hoc, but once where my story began in 2016 was where everything started to change, and yeah, I'm sure we'll get
yeah.
onto that, but yes, it was yeah. So for the first half of my running life, that was it really. I would represent my club, and I did some okay things, things I was fairly pleased with, but it kind of I guess it stagnated in the end. It sort of it could have yeah, it sort of ran out of gas in the end. I think.
I guess like the runners that maybe start running today in the UK, they have the
Mhm.
advantage because you guys have park run and it's pretty well
Yeah.
known and
Yeah.
you have one like on every street corner, which is fantastic.
Do
I
you not
think,
have park run?
well,
Yes, we
sort
do.
of. Yeah, we do. There's like one on the whole island
I
of
would say
Montreal, so
it's
it's not like
10 times less popular.
yeah. So it's not,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow.
it's I don't know why. And the US also, I think the US has some pockets where it's really popular and other
Hmm.
pockets, and that's despite, Canada's population is like sparse in some places, so you can kind of understand. But in the US, I mean, they have plenty of runners. But for some reason, Park Run, I don't
Mm.
know,
Oh, interesting.
it's not as well known, that's for sure. In the UK, it seems like everybody knows what park run is, even if they don't run. So that's kind of that's a
Yeah.
real phenomenon,
It's true. It also seems that if you don't run and you see park run because it's in the vocabulary, you go, "Oh, I'd like to do that." Well, the NHS have a Catch to 5K program that you can just download for
Absolutely. Yeah.
free and off you
Yeah.
go. So, in fact, the government actually supports taking people who are non-runners and getting them into this free 5K system called park run, which is quite wonderful. You
So if
guys
we
take it
take
all
the
for
title of my
granted.
book, you look at the title of my book, What If?
Yeah.
Somebody thought, what if? What if I got off the couch and tried?
Mm.
yeah.
So you don't have to be winning to win to succeed. And I
Yeah.
think that is the phenomenon of parkrun. It's an incredible thing where it doesn't matter what your ability is, it doesn't matter why you're there, it doesn't matter if you're going to try and be really quick or you're just going to try and get to the end of it, or you're just there for a social chat. You're just there to meet people once a week. It's an amazing thing that has done so much way beyond running. I think it goes way beyond running, much deeper than that, and its
Yeah.
impact has been incredible. I mean, just incredible,
Mm.
and long may it continue.
Yeah, it
Mm.
transforms the mindset of a lot of
Yeah,
people from I'm not a
absolutely,
runner to I can do that just like anyone else.
exactly.
Um, Something that Liz and I are super interested in, and we probably perked up in your book when it came up, was the sub 3 hour marathon. Um, for a lot of enthusiastic amateur runners, it's a sort of holy grail of marathon running. Um, and we've been
That
trying.
magical place where your marathon time goes from 3 to 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did this fit? You managed to, or you decided that you wanted to try and go for that at some stage. How did this fit into your running journey? Do you take caffeine when you run? Lots of people do because it's in gels and stuff. And caffeine's legal and it's been proven to work. There's actual science that shows that it improves your endurance running performance.
And there's anecdotal data from when you have your coffee in the morning and you go for a workout versus when you forgot to have your coffee or you didn't have time and you went for a workout and it was terrible.
And the trouble with coffee is there's a lot of liquid just to get your caffeine dose.
Yeah, so then you have to stop for the bathroom mid-workout. Very impractical. Which is where Caffeine Bullet comes in.
What's caffeine bullet, Liz?
It's a caffeine supplement. It's wrapped up like in a candy. So, and it tastes like candy. And you can get 100 milligrams or 85 milligrams, which is about a cup of coffee, but without the liquid.
So we've tried the mint flavor and the chocolate orange flavor, They're both pretty yummy.
If you want to try them for yourself, we do have a 20% off discount code. So go to the link in the show notes and you can check out what Caffeine Bullet is and get your 20% discount.
Pretty generous.
It is pretty generous.
And we'll get a small benefit, so you're helping out the
Speaking of which, back to the podcast.
Well, firstly, I'm quite lucky, I think, that ultimately I've been gifted with whatever reason, call it fate, call it genetic, call it what you will. I've been gifted with a pace that allows me to do that. So that makes me very lucky. Yeah, so in 2016, I ran the London Marathon, kind of out of shape. I wasn't really trained for it, and arrogantly, stupidly thought, I'll go with a 3:15 pacer. I think at that stage I've run 3:11, so I thought, that'll be fine. I'm sure I can do that. And at 17, 18 miles, the inevitable happened and the wheels fell off. And it was devastating, to say the least. I had to run, walk in, and it was a complete disaster. And that's where everything changed for me. I thought that that's where the what if begins, really. And I decided that I would see what I could do if I really trained. So I bought books, I listened to podcasts, I listened to other people, and I started to incorporate these things into my training. So everything became incredibly structured. No mile was wasted. Every mile I ran was for a reason, and it wasn't just being out there for nothing. If it was an easy run, it was an easy run. If it was a fast run, it was a fast run. And so I began this training regime, and I'd always harbored an interest in trying to break 3 hours. I thought that it might be a possibility for me if I really tried. And yeah, and so that magical 6:52 that you have to do to get around 3 hours just became embedded in my head.
So that's
But I needed
6:52 minutes per mile.
per
Yeah.
mile,
Yeah,
yes.
well,
I would need
the number for
six,
us is 4:15, which is 4
4:15,
minutes
right. So
15 per kilometer.
Kilometer.
and
Yeah.
once that starts to get inside you, that's all I could think. And I would there would be Yazos, you know what Yazos are, so structured Yazos,
Yeah,
where I would do
800
my
meters.
800 meter repeats,
Yeah.
where I would be running at a pace. So each 800 rep would be equivalent to the time I wanted. So I was running them at 2:59. So and it bizarrely works. I did many miles at marathon pace, so I understood what that felt like. And then when I stood there on the start line at Brighton, the first time I ever did it, I could, for the first time, I could look at myself and think, I have done everything I need to do to have a real shot at this. And now it's about putting a strategy in place. It's about trusting in my race strategy. And one of the hard things I think to do over a longer distance is to believe in starting out at the pace that you're going to try and maintain. Because if you've got your training right, of course, this should feel fairly easy. This shouldn't begin to tax you until you're realistically well into the second half of the race. And it's actually very hard to do. And I got very lucky on the day because they were supposed to have 3:15 paces. Then suddenly these two guys turned up with balloons and God knows what on their back, saying, "Oh, we're the 3 hour paces." And
Guess they
so
found some at the last minute.
yeah, and so all of that pacing, I thought, so here's the deal. I put all of that in their hands, and all I have to do is keep running. I know I can do this. So I need to keep running. And sure enough, that is what happened. I got to about 18, 19 miles, and I thought, I feel quite good here. I didn't hit the wall, which you never have to hit actually. If you get everything right, the wall doesn't exist. That's a nonsense. And yeah, and so I began to pull away, and I think as you'll remember in my book, I was at 24, 25 miles from getting a flag. I saw a friend of mine who just shouted at me, "Run!" That's all he said, "Run!" Because I think I was shaking my head at him, and I thought, am I gonna blow this here in this moment, in this last mile, and all those things, all those cliches. I'm saying to myself, everything is now. All that matters is the next mile. You have to keep going for the next mile, and somehow I managed to, and I think I can't remember what it was now. I crossed the line in 2:58 something, and the weird thing was there was no huge. I wasn't sort of whooping, hollering. It was just I've done it, and it was just an immense sense of satisfaction that I'd actually done it. And not only that, I'd negative split it,
Yeah, by
which
a lot, I think, right? Wasn't it like, I don't know, something crazy like
that
six,
one was about 2 minutes, I think.
oh, 2 minutes.
And when
Okay.
we talk about the 3 hour being the holy grail for me is the negative split.
Mm.
If it's good enough for the very best in the world, then who am I to try and do anything? I don't believe in bagging time. There is no bagging time because just all you're doing is
No,
just
that usually always works in the direction that you
yeah,
don't think
Yeah.
it's going to. Yeah, yeah. It's
I guess
yeah,
Liz and I have a philosophy of you even split
yeah,
and you have nothing left at the end.
absolutely, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
absolutely. That's completely where you've got to be. You want to cross the line knowing there's nothing more to give. But I've met too many people that have gone off. I don't know. They're looking for a 3 hour marathon and do the first half in 125, and then they hit that
Ouch.
rate to
Yeah,
go
that's too fast.
where it all starts to hurt, and
Mm.
they've gone. You know,
Mm.
the sort of wall takes over. They've gone too hard. That's why they've reached that stage. Maybe haven't followed any nutrition plan during the race, and yeah, and that's where it inevitably ends up. But
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, our approach is you try to go through halfway if you're trying to do sub three, no faster than 129.
absolutely, you've
If
got
you're
to
any
Yeah,
faster than that, you've just programmed yourself for self-destruction.
yeah,
yeah,
absolutely, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And
But it
actually,
is
the
hard,
sweet
isn't it?
spot
It's
is
so hard
like
to
30
do.
It is
seconds.
hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you find yourself maybe 7, 8, 9 miles in thinking, I feel really good. Maybe I could do even more today.
Yeah.
And that's so not the approach to take. You have to
Yeah.
stay in the zone, stay in the moment, and stick to what the plan is. If you start to mess with the plan, that's when things go wrong. And I think that's one of the things I'm proudest of. I think all bar one of my sub three attempts have all been negative splits, and that matters as much to me as a runner, I guess, as a seasoned runner now, as the time itself. You just feel I ran that properly. I did that right.
Hmm. And you make a pretty drastic jump to another distance that is quite a bit longer than a marathon. All of a sudden, or it seems like all of a sudden, you decide that you want to run 100K. You've run when the longest you run is like marathons. You suddenly decide 100K. Why 100K? What attracted you to this distance? How'd you
Okay,
decide to do this?
so we've all got those friends, yeah, that
Oh, okay, that's how
first
it
did an ultra
starts.
marathon, and you think you did what, and you have this conversation with them, and initially I'm kind of like, no, that's ridiculous. Why would anyone want to do that? How can you even do that? It's not possible. And then somebody else does it, and somebody else does it, and you think, oh, I wonder if I could actually do that. So yeah, that's what it was born out of. And the race I chose um, is as much for walkers as it is for runners. So the idea was it took the pressure off me. I didn't,
Okay.
I wouldn't feel that I was amongst the elite sort of ultra running world, and I would find myself being tugged along at a pace that I couldn't sustain or maintain or whatever. And yeah, so that's what it was born out of. Really, it was just that friends had done it, so you think, well, I wonder, could I, if they've done it, I wonder if I could do it. Yeah, and that's where it was born out of, really. But I got it so wrong, so unbelievably wrong. I went off like a marathon runner for the first half,
Oh,
made it twice in the second. Unbelievable cramping, fatigue like you wouldn't believe, but it was brilliant because it was kind of like, so here we are. This is ultra running. This is what it's all about. Ultra running is more the journey. Do you understand what I mean?
yeah.
It's
Mm.
it's more about getting from A to B in one piece perhaps than it is in the marathon. The marathon is you're very structured. You're very it's all about pacing and where you need to be at any given time. And of course, a lot of ultras are run over hillier ground. And we all refer to this ultra running thing. Of course, there's as much walking as there is in running in these ultras. I think it's what maybe people the uninitiated don't realise when we say running. They think we're going along as we would do doing a park run. But of course, it doesn't work like that. It's like a mobile picnic. It's just absolutely brilliant. And yeah, and I really really enjoyed it. It was a wonderful experience. Very very hard, but yeah. And I guess I got the bug then, and then it was
Mm.
about where else we could this thing,
Well,
you
for
know.
sure, those fueling stations, they'll definitely win you over. Trail
Oh,
runners, they know how to fuel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's none of this like goopy, like strawberry flavored gel
Yeah, I
business.
mean,
It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
they have chips and
we
all
spoke
kinds
with
of
Claire
things.
Maxted a few weeks ago, the
yeah,
wild
yeah,
ginger runner, and she
yeah,
used the same term as you in terms of, oh, you're just out for a country stroll, having picnics at regular
yeah.
intervals. Um, I
I mean,
think
it's
that,
actively encouraged. It's brilliant. I mean, that's
yeah,
part of the game. It's fantastic. You go from A station to A station, just fill in your goodie bag, and then try and do the next bit. And I love it. It's a wonderful thing to do. It just feels so less pressured. It sounds, I guess, immensely hard to do, but it's just a different approach. It's a different way of thinking. I often say this is, and I don't mean this as a derogatory term, but it's not running as you know it. It's a completely different thing that stands on its own. So I might expect to run a half marathon at 6 minute miling. You know, if I'm having a really good my fastest ultra. I think my fastest 100 mile ultra I was 10 minute miling. It's a completely different thing.
mm,
It's a whole different discipline, and it's wonderful, and it's the camaraderie is incredible from the other runners and the volunteers, and yeah. So I think if anyone's wants to scratch that itch, I'll give it a go. It's 50K and then build from there, perhaps. But yeah, I'll go in at the deep end with 100K. But yeah, it's well worth having a go at. It's very different to marathon running, but great fun.
So I find that like what ends up happening sometimes is people try these ultras, and then they get the bug for the ultra, and then they end up more in that camp than they probably will like completely start foregoing
Yeah.
the marathons. And so it seems like there's kind of a split. People are either 100% in love with trail running or 100% in love with road marathons. But you seem to go back and forth and you seem to enjoy both. So it
I
like
love this. I love this question, Liz. That's a fantastic question. Yeah, I've so heard that before. That I've actually had people who are almost trail runners were almost disappointed that
when
I'm
you're
going to
doing
run on the
a
road again.
yeah.
yes, yeah.
You
I
know,
met
Great
one
you
of
know,
time.
those once.
How
but
dare you?
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's kind of you've let the side down, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I I'm really a road runner masquerading as a trail runner. Trail running is something that I tend to look at I guess more for fun, although it's still incredibly difficult at times. But I love the thrill of fast running, of just putting on my trainers, none of the paraphernalia that comes with trail running, no mandatory kit, no backpacks, no taking all that stuff with you. And I love
No 2 liters of water.
no 2 liters of water and all this. And I adore the thrill of fast running. I still do. If, yeah, so marathon keeps calling me back in a really good way. And I mean, even when I'm ultra training, there's this. I've heard people talk about whether interval training is necessary when you're ultra training. Some say, well, you should just be out there doing long runs at, very low intensity. But not me. I
Mm.
like the idea of high intensity training, and even when I'm ultra training, when I've got an ultra race coming up, I still keep my interval training. Firstly, I find it really interesting. I find it really, really challenges me every week, even though I've been doing this for years now. I'll be doing my warm up thing. Going to happen today. I'm gonna try, and it's not going to be there. And so I kind of enjoy that pressure. Does that make sense? I kind of it's a different
Mm.
pressure that doesn't come with ultra running. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, I adore. For me, the marathon is the greatest test of endurance over speed, and I love that. I love that the thrill of that. I really do. It's yeah, it's so. But I enjoy the trails. I love the longer journey that an ultra run is. That's sort of we're going way beyond the norm, I suppose, and taking it aid station to aid station. I love so they're just different things, but I love them both. Yeah, and as I say, I say I have had people say to me, "Wow, why have you gone back to road running?" Well, I adore it. I adore my road running. I really do, and I unashamedly say that. you know.
Mm.
But I equally enjoy, like this morning, I was out in the mountains in Wales and the sun's up and there's barely a soul around. I'm coming along a dramatic drop, ridge with a sheer drop one side of it, and it's just the most exhilarating experience. So yeah, I just enjoy running. I enjoy all forms of running, except
Yeah.
5K. They're hard work, but the
Yeah,
older we get,
5Ks are
they're
hard
hard.
work for sure. Yeah. I agree. I'm trying to do some of those right now and definitely hard work.
From a trail point of view, reading your book, you seem to have done quite a few events in the North and South Downs,
Yeah.
which is a sort of a picturesque hilly area in the southern UK, for people who don't know. And in particular, you continually wax lyrical about the South Downs Way or the South Downs. Why are these some of your favorite trail events?
The South Downs. The reason I chose that as my first kind of my first sort of proper 50 and then 100 is it starts in Winchester in Hampshire, which is kind of midway between the western and east of England, I suppose. And the thing is, you run back towards a little town called Eastbourne. Eastbourne is 20 miles to the west of Hastings. So I was running home. Every mile I did, I got closer and closer and closer to home, and that was psychologically a wonderful place to be. So, firstly, I chose it for that because I thought I'm just going home. That's what I'm doing. I'm running home along there, and it's a lovely sort of. They're all beautiful rolling hills and downland, which means that they are, in essence, quite runnable. There aren't hills that you would. These aren't mountains. This is downland,
Mm.
so you're never more than I don't know. It runs along the coast, so the coast being at sea level, of course, you're then no more than really, I would guess no more than 150 meters elevation. So you're just rolling across these beautiful downs, and the views and are just breathtaking, and the terrain underfoot is nice to run on. So yeah, they hold a special place in my heart, and they've been my playground, which is where I've trained so much over the last sort of 10 years or so, 8 years or so, and yeah, so I'm kind of biased, I suppose, and it's the same with the North Downs. So the North Downs heads for from Farnham to Ashford. Ashford again is about 35 miles from Hastings. So I was running home again, north side of Hastings this time, but I'm running home, and I just think psychologically that's a real advantage for me. I just feel that that sense of going home kind of works for me. Yeah,
Mm.
I guess the probably the trails are not too technical either, so
absolutely. Yeah,
yeah.
you're so right. They are. It's beautiful, sort of heathland, a little bit chalky in places, but you
So
can often get
you're
off
not
to the
you're not
side of the
spending all
chalk.
your time watching where you're putting your feet, and you can
Exactly. So
actually head
Oh,
up
that
and look
sounds
around. Sounds
sounds
like
like something
Liz's
I
kind
might
of
like.
trails. Yeah.
yeah, so if you've ever done any sort of technical terrain or mountain running, you know that
All
you
the
almost
terrain is technical over here,
yeah,
it seems
the
like
mentally it
there's
takes
no.
its toll, right? Because you
Yeah.
just have to concentrate so hard
Yeah,
all the
if
time.
you got to focus 3 meters ahead of you all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm like, I never understand like people say, "Oh, the views are so spectacular." It's like all my view for the entire like half day that I'm running is basically my feet and all the roots that I'm trying to avoid and the rocks I'm trying not to step on and yeah,
That's so
it's
right.
so
People
funny.
often say to you, "Oh, did you see this and did you see that?"
I'm like,
No, all I
"No."
was doing is looking at the rocks and the ground in front of me. That was all I did,
I
trying
was busy
trying to
trying
stay
not
on
to
my
fall
feet.
over.
Yeah, yeah. So yes, it's just beautiful, gorgeous, level ground to run on, and it's all in midsummer it tends to be obviously long days, short nights, and it's just a stunning part. If you ever get the chance, it's a stunning part of the world to run. And the company that I ran with is so well organised, and it just makes it a joy. The course is well marked, so yeah, it's
Those are the Centurion events.
Centurion, yeah, Centurion
Centurion.
running. They're very big in kind of like southeast of England. They've had some spectacular times. They've got a big the South Downs this year. I think I'm right in saying is part of it's the Golden Trail series. I hope I'm
Yes.
saying
I've
that
seen that
right.
on TV. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, and they've
Yeah.
got some serious runners this year. From
Okay.
yeah from England this year we have Mark. I don't know if you've heard of Mark Derbyshire. He's a legend in the UK, multiple race winner, multiple course record holder. He's running it this year, so it's really quite elevated. But yeah, it's if you ever get the chance, it's a wonderful, wonderful place to run. And a great company to run with, actually.
So I kind of have a question about there were a few times in the book where you explained how you did like a few hard things within not very long. One of those times was you mentioned running the London Marathon in under 3 hours after having run a 50-mile race in the trail about 3 weeks before.
Yeah,
And so I'm kind of wondering, like, do you think so? This sort of happened to me, but not exactly like as close as you ran it. But we went to that one of these stage race events
hmm
in British Columbia in 2019 in September, and we ran a marathon in October. And I didn't expect much from the marathon, and I ended up running a personal best, even though
hmm
like, and my husband, who's an avid trail runner and wants to always think that trails are the secret magic sauce to everything, he says, "Oh, it's because you trained in the mountains all summer." So when you ran that sub 3 hour marathon, a little bit by accident, because you absolutely didn't expect it,
no, no,
because you
no,
had
no.
just run a 50-mile trail race 3 weeks before, do you think there was any kind of, I don't know, contribution to your fitness because you were training for a trail race instead of a road race? I don't know. Have you noticed any sort of pattern when you, like, since you've started running in the trail? Do you feel like it helps your road fitness at all? I don't know. Just curious about what you
It's
think
another
about all
great
of that.
question. And your husband, for my money, is absolutely right. I think
Oh
Oh
no.
no, we
Oh,
I
better
think
make sure he doesn't hear this
we'll edit
episode.
that out.
the trail running makes you fit, right? Because so if we look at, even I'm not talking racing road shoes here. If we look at road shoes here, they're often incredibly cushioned. They're often incredibly bouncy. All these new foams they use, and you get a great return every time you hit the tarmac. Yeah. So some of the work that's being done is being done by the shoe that you're running in. It's driving you forward all the time. For me, I don't necessarily, although trail companies have shoes that they say work like that, of course, trails tend to be a lot softer. So every time you hit the ground, you're not getting that hard return from the ground. You're having to do so much more of the work. They tend
That's
to
why it
be,
feels so hard.
yeah, yeah, they tend to be a lot hillier. You tend to have awkward ground that you have to go over. And so yeah, so I think when you're trail running, you may be at a lower intensity, but the effort you're having to put in to run is so much harder. So I think that transfers to making it a little easier on the road. Of course, as I said earlier, I still maintain my interval and intense sessions all the time when I'm training for a trail race. So I still do that all the time. I tend to split it up into two parts. So during the week, I'll do my intense road sessions just because you don't have too much time generally in the week. Then the
Hmm.
weekend I'll transfer to the trails if I'm training for a trail race, where I'll then go and do my lower intensity, longer runs. But
That's
yeah, I
actually
think
the same formula we were following, and that was more because of proximity, because we have to
yeah.
travel to get to like a
A
hill.
mountain. Yeah.
So we could only do that on like Saturdays. And so during the week we would just join our club for their weekly, like for their interval sessions, and on the weekend we would do a long run somewhere in the trail.
But yeah, I would advocate trail running for the reasons I've said, and also you get used to nutrition on trail runs. So you may not do that so much in road running. So I get used to
Oh,
working
yeah.
with gels and what works best for me and when I ought to be taking them. And yeah, so and of course it's the impact is reduced on you as well. So I think maybe it helps reduce risk of injury because of the soft impact under your foot all the time. But yeah, so I just feel that when you're trail running, it's more you than it is on the road. The road shoe technology has come along so much now that road shoes are just, you put a new pair of road shoes on and you feel like, Zebedee. You probably want to know who Zebedee is, but it's kind of bouncy carrots that
It's
you
like
used
a
to in
giant
the
spring.
TV show. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you know, Alan, yeah. So you feel like
Yes.
you're being
Magic
bouncing
roundabout.
along the road.
Time for
Where of
bed.
course it doesn't. And of course, often on trails it might have rained. It may be that it's muddy and it makes it even harder. So for anyone that's marathon training, I would road marathon training, if you can get to them, at least sometimes get out on the trails where you've got to, because until you've done trail running, you really don't know how hard it is to do compared to road running. It's hard work,
Mm.
trail running. And I think so. Yeah, I agree. I think the trail running and it worked for me. In fact, there's another chapter I talk about in my book where I ran the UTMB TTC, and although it was a longer gap, 2 months after that, I go and run my fastest marathon ever and my
Oh
fastest
yeah.
10K ever. You know,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
again, it was fairly quickly after I'd run a mountainous trail race, 100K trail race. So yeah, it was. Obviously I've been concentrating on training for that for some months beforehand. But yeah, those skills then became transferable clearly, and so I think that yeah, I think I would advocate trail running as part of your marathon training if you can do it always.
Okay, cool. We're now in really big trouble with Liz's husband, Andre, who tries to drag us out on trails
My
all the
number one
time.
fan now, obviously, you know.
Oh my goodness,
Yeah.
yeah. He's probably going
Yeah.
to be writing you thank you
Yeah.
letters
You'd
for
be
his
writing your fan
listeners.
mail now. Thank you. At last. At last. Um, yeah, probably just before we pass it over, you mentioned running the CCC,
Hmm.
which, people who are in the know what we mean by the CCC. It's a race during the UTMB, the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc race weekend. Um, just tell our listeners who are less well informed, what is the CCC and how did you get in? Because
Yeah.
these things are not easy to get into.
Oh gosh,
At least the
I don't know.
UTMB is really not easy to get into, and I think the other races during that weekend as well.
Mm,
Okay, so I got, in my opinion, I got very lucky. So of course, so the CCC refers to, I got this right now, Courmayeur,
yes,
Champagne, Chamonix, because
yes.
that's what you do. You run through, and you run through it. So I think it starts in Italy. You run through Switzerland, and finish in France over the most glorious mountains in the shadow of Mont Blanc. Just the most spectacular thing. I think if I had to, well, it's up there anyway amongst the best things I've ever done. I think
Hmm.
I went there thinking this is going to be a lot of hype and a lot of
Mm,
nonsense, and I got sucked in big time and loved it. But so how I got in, you'll know that it used to be a ballot entry system before they get into this rather unique stones thing.
yeah.
And I got in the very last year of the ballot entry system, so I just got lucky in the lottery.
Oh wow.
Um, but what happened then was COVID was still around then. I think it was 20. I was supposed to run the 21 race. So I got in 2020 with a place for the 21 race. COVID was still with us in Europe then. And they sent out an email saying that we're going to be running the race slightly differently. So here's what you can do. You can either pull out and we'll reimburse you. You can run the race over COVID conditions, or you can pull out and run it again in 22 when, fingers crossed, the world will be in a better place. And that's what I did. So most people, if it still works as it did, you find out sometime, I don't know, January, February, maybe, if you're in for August. Well, I had well over a year of preparation time
Okay. So
because
you have
I knew
much
in
Very
longer to
good.
October,
prepare.
yeah. So I knew in October 21 that I would be running in 22. And yeah, so that's how I got in. I got really lucky. It was a last hole ballot system, which I wish they would do again. I think, yeah, it's this kind of collecting stones things is awkward, but whatever. But yeah, it was just, yeah, it was incredible. I'd never done anything like it in my life. It was just the most wonderful thing, and it really is a multi national event. I mean, I thought I'd done hill training till I got there. I've never seen mountains like it. I did so much work in the preparation
Wow.
getting into it, but I've never seen anything like. We have mountains in the UK. It'll be different for you guys in where you are, but we have mountains here. Then there are mountains in Europe. So
Yeah.
kind of like our highest mountains here, I think Ben Nevis is 1,100 meters. Well, one of the climbs in the CTC was 1,400 meters alone. and you
Oh,
just
wow.
keep on doing this up and down, up and down. I think across the 100K, it was something, I think it's about nearly 7,000 meters of elevation gain.
Oh,
And
wow.
I don't know about you guys if you ever run a longer trail race, but it's the downhills that get me in the end. My quads just really, really suffer towards the end. And it was the last leg was really, really, really tough. But yeah, it was from my point of view, I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, whether I agree with their entry system now, I don't know. But yeah, it was a glorious thing to do, and I would maybe I'd like to return one day and do it again. But it was that good. I wouldn't want to spoil it the second time around if it wasn't, you know. But
Yeah.
Well,
yeah,
the CCC is the sort of the silver medal race really in the weekend, isn't
yeah,
it? The big event being the full UTMB, the Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, which is whereas the CCC is 100K, the UTMB is 100 miles. It's actually a little longer than 100 miles, 170 something kilometers. So it's the full circuit. You start in Chamonix, you go
yeah.
all the way around basically Mont Blanc, and you do all the stuff from the CCC, and you finish again back in Chamonix. Do you have any ambitions for that?
Oh, my word, that would be some challenge. I'd like to. I mean, I chose the 100K event because 100K. If you've run, I guess because I've run 100-mile races in the UK, although not with the elevation or the terrain, it felt more doable. Does that make sense? It felt that I
Mm-hmm.
might have a chance of actually making the end of
I
this
mean,
thing.
Yeah.
a hundred miles, 100 mile event is not equivalent everywhere in
No,
the world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no,
it can be two
no,
times as hard.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's why I chose 100 because I thought I might actually have a chance of finishing. But having done that, yes, there's a part. Well, put it this way: I've done a race this year, so I've been gained some running stones, so I have a chance of going into the ballot.
Aha,
And
aha.
Oh.
We're getting
the
you
one
to
I'm,
admit your secret
yeah,
goals
the
on the
one I'm thinking
podcast.
of would be if I entered one again, I would enter. I would try and get a place in the UTMB. Yes,
Okay.
Well,
I
good
think
luck
I
with
would
that.
have to
Yeah.
try.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crossing my fingers for you for
What about
sure.
you guys? Would you? I mean, what are your thoughts? Would you ever?
Well, I've done the
A long way to
OCC. I've done
come.
the OCC, which
Yeah,
is the baby event in the
that's the
UTMB
50K.
weekend.
Yes,
Yeah,
about
56,
50K.
56K stands
Yeah.
for Orsières, Champexlac, Chamonix. OCC starts in Switzerland. And yeah, it's a magnificent event. But one, it's difficult to get in now.
Yeah.
So,
Also, all the stone events, I think they're all in Europe and like there's not many in North
and it's,
America.
yeah, to be honest, it's
Mm.
kind of it feels a little bit sleazy commercial now
I have to agree with
because
that.
of
I
the
mean,
approach
yeah.
of UTMB since they've made the merge with the Ironman triathlon people. I think it kind of feels like a money grab. They're
So
kind of
it
forcing you
feels,
into certain of other of their
yeah.
events to get qualification stones and
Dare I
Yeah, and
say, it feels a little bit elitist to me because
yeah.
you need to have the funds available to travel and there are people that are traveling all over the world. Now
Mm,
that brings into the morality of that. Whether that's environmentally ethical to be traveling all over the world to gain stones to try and
yeah.
ultimately get this race. If it were my choice, I would go back to a straight ballot system. Everyone goes in the
mm,
hat, and everybody has equal opportunity, no matter whatever stones you've got to get in. I just feel that
yeah. Otherwise you have to sort of provide some opportunities like closer to home for the because in North America, I think like there are some races in the US maybe, but
mhm,
even that is well, I mean,
Yeah, there's no
it could
race
be
within a
quite
thousand
far.
miles of
Yeah,
where
so you have
we
to
are.
fly
wow,
there, so
Yeah.
wow.
it's a little
That's a UTMB
complicated.
race.
And
Yeah.
talking about the elitist thing, we have in the UK now. I know that Centurion participate in this. That they want people to be able to have a go at trail running. Trail running gets more expensive. There's more kit involved. We tend to wear shoes out quicker. We're tending to have
Hmm.
to travel to get to trail sometimes.
Yeah.
And so we have races in the UK now where they have a certain amount of entries. Where if people perhaps don't have the funds available to do these things, you can apply for a place, and they give out free places so that we introduce our
Hmm.
sport that we love, the sport that we enjoy
Yeah.
doing to everyone. And
Yeah.
I feel that the UTMB approach flies in the face of that. It just feels
Yeah.
like it's for people who can afford to do it now, and
Hmm.
I'm not sure that's the way to go. But that's just my
Hmm.
opinion. You know,
Yeah. I mean, I also understand the other side. It's that, like they can't, I mean, trails can only accommodate so many people. You
agreed.
can't
Yeah,
have a
Yeah.
50,000
yeah.
spots like you can in the London Marathon. So, I mean, I kind of get that they need to have some kind of filter. And especially with it being so popular and, more and more people taking part in trail running, which is great. But, then, of course, UTMB is such a like title kind of event, it's like everybody
Mm.
knows about it. Everybody knows what it is, thinks it's fantastic and wants to participate, which is great. And then they have to filter that. So I guess, this is what they came out with. And I
I
guess,
mean, trail running
like,
has exploded, right? Trail running
yeah.
is in the last 10, 15 years, and I am part of that. I have to say, I am part of that.
Fastest
It's
growing
huge.
arm of the
Yeah,
Hmm.
sport.
Yeah.
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 yeah. It's massive now,
Yeah.
isn't it? Which is great. It's great, but
It's
Yeah.
excellent. While I'm on my soapbox, um, I think the Western States approach, I'm on record as being very frustrated with the London Marathon ballot, there and their 1.2 million entries in the ballot. I don't think that's something to be proud of. I think that's something to be ashamed of, if that's your system, because the chances for people who really want to run it are going down and down and down. There's no good for age entry for overseas people.
really, I
You've got
didn't
to
know
be
that.
a UK resident to get that. So I could run that. I can run that, not a problem.
Mm.
Except I'm not a resident, so I have to go in with the 1.2 million people. That doesn't
Wow.
work. So charity it is. So that's by the by. There's in trail running. There's another system. I think it's a Zagama in the
I've
in,
heard of the race.
in
Yeah, yeah,
and I think certainly Western states have it, which is if you enter and you fail in the lottery, what they do is they double your tickets every time you fail.
yeah.
So in year two you get two tickets in the lottery. If you fail, the next year you get four tickets in the lottery, and if
That
you
sounds great.
if you keep
Yeah.
applying it, the number goes up to a lot. So your chances some people have 256 tickets in Western states. They have 256 chances. So because they're aficionados and they're qualified for at least to enter the lottery, they
You're showing a
will,
commitment to the race, I
yeah,
suppose, aren't
and they
you?
show a commitment to the race. They will get in. It's not,
Yeah.
whereas in London, your chances are getting less every year.
You know what? I feel with London in particular that again, this is controversial, I suppose, but the kind of club runner's forgotten now.
Mm,
I think I'm one of the lucky ones. I'm lucky. It's purely luck that I can run the speeds I need to do to gain a good for age entry,
yeah,
and then it feels like the middle runners. Then it becomes a lot of charity runners, which is wonderful. Don't get me wrong, but somehow it feels like the ordinary club runner who's pounding the streets week after week, day after day, come all weathers, and is
yeah.
volunteering at races and is doing this doesn't seem to
Get a consideration.
get it. Yeah, it doesn't seem to get considered. I don't know how you alter that now. I mean, the
Mm,
popularity is just off the scale, but I don't
yeah.
know.
Mm,
I really, I
And
wish I
you
had the.
like you can't really get rid of like charity spots because I mean
Yeah,
that's one of the major achievements of these big races is just all the good that they do for
yeah.
the towns that they're in. Um, so
I mean, my wife has been in the ballot now 15 times and never got in.
oh
So,
wow.
we have that in our family, that
yeah.
she's never got a place.
Yeah, and with the
Oh, they
publicity and
call it
the
the
one,
1% club now, right?
yes, that's what it is. It's between 1 and 1.5%.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Mm,
she keeps applying she's statistically likely to get an entry
Yeah.
once every 50 years.
That's
So,
extraordinary. Wow.
Alan's in the same boat.
Gosh. Alan, did
Yeah.
you get in with a ballot place or did you
yeah.
come with an international tour or something?
No, I did a charity entry and I
You
raised
got a
money
charity
money
entry.
for
Yeah.
charity, yeah, which I find
Which is a
I
big
f-
pressure, right?
I
It's
find
a lot of
difficult.
money.
Yeah, I
A
find
lot of money.
difficult. I
Hmm.
wouldn't I wouldn't do that every year.
I mean, I
Um,
know people who kind of have they do events all year long, various things to
Yeah.
just raise the money for that
Yeah.
6 hour run or whatever it is around London. It's incredible.
Also,
It's
Yeah.
also have a bit of a, I guess a personal reaction. I don't want to feel like I'm asking you to give me a donation so I can run the race that I want to race.
yeah, that's a very good
It
point.
kind
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
feels wrong. Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's an
so
interesting. That's I've never heard that. That's an interesting perspective, actually.
if you
Everybody else is paying for your entry almost.
to
Yeah,
some extent, yeah, well, you
I
kind of
mean,
go,
you
well,
still have to pay for your entry, but
I'm doing it
yeah.
for a good cause. But
yeah,
ultimately, you're doing it so you can run the race. You're not doing it so you can cure cancer. Um,
yeah,
but
yeah,
I think some people they do have, what I tried to do is I tried to choose entries that had meaning. So,
yeah.
um,
I mean,
one of my daughters has problems with her kidneys, so I raise money for kidney research.
I mean, I've
Uh,
seen. I speak about it in the book. Actually, some of the simple messages you see on people's backs are incredibly moving. Who
hmm.
are running for
Hmm.
very deep. It may be personal. It may be a loved one that they've lost. It may be a friend. But it's a simple picture and for dad on somebody's back is
Yeah.
just an extraordinary thing to behold. It
Yeah.
really is. It really is. So that yeah. But for me, I just wish some. I don't know how you do it, but I know that they give out. So in the UK, I don't know if you know, based on your membership, a running club gets a certain amount of entries provided to them, and then they
Okay.
often have their own ballots. So they may have
Okay.
400 members. They may get, I don't know what it is, maybe 3 or 4 places, and they ballot
Yeah.
those
Yeah.
around their members. But I just feel that the club runner that isn't capable of running good for age times is just somehow lost in the system. And maybe that is it's not what it was originally. That's all I'm saying. Maybe originally that's
Mhm.
what the London Marathon was, but hey ho, it raises ludicrous amounts of money for charity,
Yeah.
and it's not
Yeah.
meant to
I,
be.
I
It's a
think
waste
I
of
think
money.
it's not their fault. They're just too popular.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like they're too popular for the amount of spots that they can have and yeah.
But I've had friends that have gotten on one first time. So you just
Yeah.
got to keep trying. You just don't know. I think it really is a luck thing. So it's
Yeah. I mean I as an outsider kind of because I've never entered the ballot or anything, but I have my buddy here, Alan, who's entered like 7 times and hasn't gotten in. And we
yeah,
have a few friends as well that we run with that finally ended up doing a charity entry, like, but the year before. So like last year, Alan did it this year. They did it last year, but they also were doing the lottery and never got in. I don't know if I know anybody that's actually gotten in through the lottery.
And I guess having said all of that, rant over, the London Marathon is a fantastic
I
event.
was just going to ask
It's
you, what was
it's
your
abs
experience, Alan? How did you find it? We had
well,
a tough year. It was warm.
yeah, and I was a little sick as well, so my run didn't go well. But the actual event itself is absolutely fabulous. I don't want to talk too much about it because
The lottery
there's
will get harder.
no, there's 30 minutes of podcast in our bonus. You can go and listen to that when it comes out. Um, Yeah, so an absolute fabulous event. I mean, it's just a massive celebration of our sport and a very social event because
Yeah.
of the charity and interestingly, extremely different to, let's say, Boston. I'm from Boston as well.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
um, a very, very different vibe. Um,
Really.
yeah. Very, very, very different. Boston is much more, I guess, elitist. You get in based on performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't run Boston unless you've run a qualifying time. So you've probably run several marathons before you get to Boston. And there's kind of no other way of doing it. Everybody in your corral has done a qualifying time, which is plus or minus 10 seconds of you. So
Wow.
you're basically running in a school of fish. You're all moving at the
Yeah.
same speed. You're all turning at the same time. It's very disciplined. It's very organized. Everybody's an athlete. Whereas in London, just people are just all kinds of different people for all kinds of different reasons at all kinds of different speeds. Just a big celebration.
It's a
Um,
celebration of humanity, I
yeah,
think. That's what it is. I mean, the crowds are. I'm biased, but it's the greatest road race in the world.
Well, having done London the number of times you've done it, have you ever thought of doing any of the other majors like New York or Boston
Yeah, I have. I've
or Berlin?
I'm again. I'm lucky enough that I think I'd qualify for most other than
Yes, you
Tokyo.
would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would. I think I'd like to have a go at Boston. It's the granddaddy. I think it's the
Mm,
it's the one I'd like to have a go at. And I often watch. We have the TV coverage here in the UK,
yeah.
and I would yeah. I think if any of them, I feel I'd like to have a go at I'd like to have a go at Boston. I've never visited Boston. You see, I've visited New York, so it's and these things are just a tour de force of the best of the cities that they're in, aren't they? And
Hmm.
but Boston, yeah, I think if I did any, I'd like to go to Boston.
And also your trail running your trail running pedigree would help you because there are quite a few hills.
Wow. But I
Yeah.
equally enjoy the smaller marathons. So I often, if I'm looking for if I want to if I'm looking for a fast marathon, I'll choose a smaller one. I mean, trying to run a personal best at the majors is mad. They're just so busy.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Because there's so
So,
many
and I
people.
equally enjoy that feeling of it just being me and my fellow runners. So there aren't masses of crowds.
Yeah.
We're just here because this is what we
Hmm.
love to do. Running is what we do, and
Hmm.
so the ones that are perhaps smaller and maybe there's more club vests on show, I get really inspired by that. I do enjoy the smaller races as well as the bigger ones. I think that's the beauty of trail running. You can have the madness of city marathons,
Yes.
and then the niche element of trail running, which is beautiful. It's a complete juxtaposition, and I really love. So you're asking me earlier about going to running it on road and trail. So there you go. There's another element of it. It's just they're so different in the way
Hmm.
they're approached, and the numbers make it more intimate. It's
Hmm.
rather lovely that you can do it with much smaller numbers. You get to know people perhaps around you more and the reasons they're there and where they've come from. And I think that's a wonderful element of trail running. It's getting bigger, but I mean, amazingly, a lot of racers are resisting the temptation to have the numbers that they could. You mentioned the
Hmm.
Western states. How many people every year don't get in? But they limit the numbers,
Yeah.
which is wonderful because otherwise it
Yeah.
becomes an exploded, too big. They can't cope with the number. It's not good
Yeah.
for the trials either. So yeah, so I love that element of the if it's just us on the trails. Does that make sense? People aren't running it because
Yeah.
it's the kudos of it. Because if
You
you
don't
say,
have
well,
a crowd screaming at you the
no,
whole
no,
way
no,
in the
no,
trail, right? You have like
Yeah.
maybe at the end because it's the finish line and so some
yeah.
other little spots, but yeah, you're pretty much it's just you and the other runners and
A weird thing when you say to colleagues that don't or friends that don't run, I ran a marathon. Oh wow, that's amazing! And then you say, I ran a 50-mile trail race. Oh, did you? It's kind of like
yeah,
Yeah.
it does feel like it's
they like don't know
you
what
have to
to
be in
think
the
of
know.
that.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It's almost like they can grasp a marathon, but
Yeah,
after
yeah,
that, it's
yeah,
beyond their
yeah,
comprehension.
yeah, yeah,
It's like, how far
Mm.
is
Yeah.
yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. Exactly.
So one person that appears a lot in your book is your wife Jane because she seems like your biggest fan. She
He
supports
is.
you
Yes,
in a
he
lot of
is.
a lot of the ultras because in ultras you get to have a crew. So she's done a lot of crewing for you. So how important is that to I guess to your enjoyment of running as well and just
I think that I would have achieved nowhere near what I have without her support. And it's important to say her sacrifice because to be in a relationship with somebody that particularly runs longer distance races is hard. You're often They're often off doing hours and hours of running while you're doing the things that are needing to be done in the home. You may be walking. In our case, we have a dog. She might be walking the dog, and so she does all of that before we've even got to the race, and it's a heck of a lot to ask of somebody, and she does it beautifully, and she does it with all her heart. She's nothing but supportive, and she is amazing. And as far as crewing goes, she's rescued me on more than one occasion when I've got to the point of thinking I can't go on. I mean, if you've ever had that in a trail race, you'll know it's frighteningly real when you've reached that stage where you think I can't do this. And she is always calm voice. She has never once said to me, "So just stop." It's
Mm.
always, let's sit down, let's have some food, let's get a clean t-shirt onto you, let's see how you feel in 5 minutes. And it's amazing how things can change in 5 minutes. But without that somebody on the sideline who isn't now emotionally wrecked, who is thinking rationally, it's
Hmm.
that so I to have her, I am I am so lucky. Yeah, she is just truly, truly, truly amazing. And I can't emphasize sacrifice that people that support us are doing what is nothing more than a hobby, really. Is incredible, and I'm very, very lucky. And on race days to know that, of course, a longer race, all of them would have aid stations, but they may be 10, 12 miles apart. To know somebody will be in between those makes the
Hmm.
racing so much easier because, of course, I haven't got to make it 12 miles. I've got to make it 6 miles.
Yeah.
And then I see somebody else I
you
know.
can chunk it down to
And
smaller chunks.
Yeah.
exactly. So
Yeah.
that chunking thing they talk of, we're like a pit crew now. It's incredible. So I arrive and, obviously we're carrying bottles these days. And so as I arrive, I start to loosen off my race vest. I start to remove the bottles. As I get there, James already got two full ones. In they go, and I'm off again within about 30 seconds.
Oh,
It's remarkable
wow.
how it works. Yeah, it's we've got this thing nailed now. But yeah, she is the sort of unknown hero in all of this. She really is. She is remarkable, and I am very, very lucky to be able to call her my number one fan, but more than that, my wife. So yeah, she is a remarkable woman who has, yeah, given so much for me to do things like this for you guys to be talking to me. It's
Hmm.
yeah,
And she's done some events of her own now.
yes, she
Yeah.
has. Yes, so I've had, I'll say, privilege of crewing for her on a 50K race, but it was terrifying. Crewing is the worst thing to do.
Yeah.
But of course, because
For
you're in the
fear of
race,
screwing it up.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And of course, you're stood there waiting for somebody to arrive, and you're thinking, should they have been here by now? And you have
Hmm.
no
Maybe
idea
I
how,
missed her. Oh, no.
yeah. And
Yeah.
of course, you have no idea how they're feeling. Whereas when it's you, you're the runner, you're out there doing it, you're going through a low point, you just accept it, you're going to get through it, you're somehow going to get to the other end of it. But when you're on the sidelines, you don't know how that's going. So you're second
Hmm.
guessing all the time and hoping when they appear around the corner that everything is going okay. And I found it emotionally a stressful thing to do. But yes, but she had, yeah. So she's done she's done 50K herself, and she did really, really well. Yeah, really well. And her commitment to the
Very
training was
good.
incredible.
Oh, that's so nice. It's so nice that yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, she can't get into the London Marathon, but at least she can, you know.
And
Get
every
into the
year
local
when her
50Ks.
rejection comes through, knowing that I'm doing it, she smiles and
Oh.
is there for me. And she'll,
Don't
if
you
you
sometimes wish that you could just give your entry? Like if
you,
it was,
you know what,
if
if
you
I
could just,
thought, because of course it's absolutely, you're not allowed to
you
do it. But the
can't.
day
I
she
mean,
gets
it's
in,
illegal and you'll get
yeah,
banned for life. But
the day she
sometimes,
gets in, I'll do
yeah,
it with her. I'll forget
yeah.
anything else. I'll run
Yeah.
I'll run it with her. And we have
Actually.
this thing where I know the route so well now. I know where certain bands are going to be, but I don't tell her anything about it. I talk to her about how my run went
Hmm.
because I want her one day to experience that for herself firsthand. I don't want to have told her what to expect or how it might be. I want her to experience that one day
Yeah.
for herself. But
How absolutely gobsmackingly mad it is in certain
yeah, yeah,
areas.
exactly.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's off the charts, Alan. Right? I
Yeah.
won't put you just because, of course, you got
It
your own.
is.
Yeah, but it's mad.
It
Yes.
is. It is. But you've never run through the Scream Tunnel at Wellesley College in at the
No.
halfway point in Boston.
Well, maybe I should do that one
You
Hmm.
actually can't hear yourself talk
day. Wow.
through going through it. It's
Probably can't
so
hear yourself
loud.
think
It's like
either.
an AC/DC concert loud. It's that kind of loud. So
Mm.
um that's I think London overall is more well supported, but there are just some points in some of other races that you still have to look
I
forward
really
to,
should experience
let's
it.
say.
Yeah, yeah.
Having having started with you being sort of an amateur enthusiast, um, we pick you up at the end of the book, despite probably your wildest dreams, or never thought of in your wildest dreams. We pick you up at the end of the book, actually winning a couple of races, actually coming first, um, and surprising yourself. I think the one that you run after the CCC was the when you won one before it and then one after it. You won the Wendover Woods 50 miler.
No,
Um,
no, no. The one I won was the Chiltern Wonderland,
okay,
which is a 50-mile race, again
okay,
organised by Centurion. Yeah, and it was.
okay.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, it's the slowest winning time I've ever had. But you can only beat what's in front of you. And I
Yeah.
was on the right place at the right time on the day. And the guy that runs the races gave me just the most glorious piece of advice. Really, he said to me, he's a very very dry chap, and he says things exactly how he sees them. And I arrived at the race, and he says, "Morning, Ash. How you doing?" I said, "Yeah, I'm all right." He said, and he looked at me. And he said, "There's nobody here today, mate. You might have a chance." And and that sounds on the face of it hopelessly cruel. And initially I thought, wow. And then you think, actually, that is so right.
Yeah, it's
All of this
brutally
is in my
honest.
hands today.
Yeah,
Yeah, you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Whether I fail or succeed is all down to me. I have a real chance for the
yeah,
opportunities here of succeeding, of doing well.
yeah,
And so it was actually one of the best pieces of advice I've ever been given. It's all
yeah,
in your hands, friend. You've got to go and run the race of your life, and if you do, you may well have a chance of
yeah.
winning this.
And Tom
And
Evans isn't here,
Tom Evans isn't here, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, because he would have finished an hour and a half ahead of me. But so it was yeah, and it was the strangest experience. I think I took the lead at about 18 miles, and I only knew because I got to an aid station. So I heard somebody said, "Oh, here comes the leader." Wow, the leader. What?
you're
And
sort of
looking
looking
around,
around.
yeah, yeah. And
It's like, where is he?
and the next whatever it was, 32 miles was torture because of course with these sort of distances you run, you go through low points. And
Yes,
every time you're going through a low point, I'm saying to myself, I bet he's absolutely flying now. I bet he's really nailing this
yeah,
thing, and he's
sprinting.
going to come up and he's going to catch me, and he's going to, yeah. And it was really really hard. At one point, he got the guy finishing. I can't remember his name was, but second to me, he got quite close, and I could actually see him. And I remember looking round, and he was further back than I thought. I remember thinking, whatever happens now, I can't let him see me again. And I got for the first time in my life, I got really quite racy,
Yeah,
and I never saw him again. So I crossed the finish line, and they have this glorious. It's called Centurion Running. So the trophy, if you've never seen one, is this thing that it's just enormous. And they used to sit on these tables, and you'd think, oh, to win one of them. And it's a centurion. It actually is a centurion, like a Roman
yeah.
centurion.
Hmm.
And to win it was incredible. But then they give it to me, and I sit down, and about 6 or 7 minutes later, Tom comes in. And I've never seen a man look so forlorn. And you think, my God, that's my fault.
Yeah, you crushed him.
because, I, because I've beaten him today.
Yeah,
For all the joy I'm feeling, he's probably utterly deflated. And we sat down and spoke together, and I said to him, as you do, well raced, and I said, I'm sure your day is going to come. You just got to keep. There were times when his family were talking to him, and he was just staring off into the
Oh
distance.
my
And I just
goodness.
thought,
Yeah.
what is going through your mind here? And it was. It was. I don't know if it's a bit strange, but I found it quite traumatic. I'm obviously not a natural born winner. I found it really quite strange that I could be so elated and this guy could be so deflated, all
Hmm.
within in the same room, and it was
yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not
It's
to
But
say.
he got the best out of himself
yeah.
that day.
Yeah,
And
yeah, sure,
that's
yeah,
that's why he
absolutely, yeah.
looked like
He had
a
nothing more to
ghost,
give. Yeah,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
I,
exhausted by the end.
he
So
probably thought I need to empty out completely here
yeah,
to give myself a chance.
yeah,
And so he's probably nearer to a point of collapse than you
yeah,
were. you're running
Yeah,
on the adrenaline of fear.
yeah, yeah.
He was just pushing and pushing and pushing. So a little bit
And
of what
fear
you
is a huge
see.
motivator. When you're
Yeah,
waiting
yeah,
for somebody to come up behind you, it can half drive you along.
yeah.
It's
Hmm.
yeah. But yeah, I'm very, as I say, it was. I'm proud to say it actually is the V50 course record still.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
yes,
wow. Good
There you
I
stuff.
go.
am. Yeah, it was the slowest ever winning time they've had there. But the victory is mine, and I have the trophy at home, which is rather
Yeah.
lovely.
Yeah. Yeah. Read, as they say in the soccer argument, read about it in the papers,
Yes, yeah,
it has you at
yeah,
the top.
Hmm.
It was pretty good in the book though to read your experience with that as somebody who's not normally in that
yeah,
environment
yeah.
and then describing, oh, what's happening to me here. That was quite fun.
Because this is. I like to see myself, and I genuinely believe it, that I am just the ordinary runner that has succeeded. I'm you guys. I'm everyone. I'm just an everyone runner, and and I
Mm.
I've put my head above the parapet, and I like that. You know what I mean? This doesn't come. I have to work very hard to achieve what I do. This doesn't come. Trail running in particular doesn't come natural to me, and my my commitment to my training is large. And funnily enough, I've been asked many times what it is you're doing, and I never had a Strava account. And I mentioned
Mhm.
in the opening statement of my book, you won't find me on in Strava.
Yeah.
Now you will,
Ah,
because I've actually
okay.
opened one because people were, what is it you're doing?
Yeah.
What are you doing out there that is? And
Hmm.
so, yeah, my wife always said to me, sometimes people can perhaps think these just things just happen. You turn
Yeah.
up at a marathon, you run 2:52, and then you go home and everything's rosy. I go
Yeah.
home like you did, Alan, broken,
Yeah.
absolutely broken, with nothing more to give. And
Mm.
it's taken weeks and months of training to get to that point. And so yeah, I really feel I am just I hope I am an example that whether your very best is a 4 hour marathon or a 5 hour marathon or a 30 hour 100-mile race, you can do it if you commit to it and you really try and you want it. You want it so much that it hurts. And if you do, Lizzie, you will break 3 hours if you really want to break 3 hours. It'll take commitment like you've never had before, but you can do it if you truly believe and then commit to a proper structured training plan and then execute your race strategy properly. You can do it. Trust me, you can. Because if I can, you
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, what he said. So,
I'm
so since the
I'm
book
all in for that.
since the book came out, I guess it depicts your exploits to about 2023. Um,
can.
have you been up to anything you can tell us
Yeah.
about?
So I'll start with the good points because the bad points are more interesting. The good points are I ran the Chester Marathon last year and set a new marathon PB of 2:47:11.
Oh
Oh,
my goodness.
congratulations.
Like you
Um,
just keep chipping off those minutes.
and the one I thought had got away from me was the 80-minute half marathon. I thought, I'm
Yeah,
53 now,
yeah,
and to go faster is getting harder.
yeah.
But I
That's
ran
like a 120.
yes, I ran the Newport half marathon down in Wales earlier this year. I think it was March, and I ran 1:17:32. So
Yow.
I've broken
Wow. Fast.
120. And I
Amazing.
recently ran the South Downs Way 50 again. I
Hmm.
was supposed to be doing it with a friend, but
This is 50 miles.
50 miles, yeah.
Yeah.
So he pulled out with injury, and so I was kind of left to still I want to do and actually finish third there.
Oh,
So
wow.
Congratulations.
yeah,
Yeah.
behind Mark Derbyshire who won it actually. So I was very proud of that. But to the bad point, last year I took on the Lakeland 100. I don't know if you've ever heard of this. So we have the
Yes.
Lakeland in the
Yes,
Yeah,
up
UK.
I think
in
I've heard of that. Yeah.
based in
It's
Keswick.
yeah, it's one of the tough ones in the UK, and I ran it last July, and for the first time ever, DNF'd.
Okay.
Oh,
First
I pulled
DNF.
out. I pulled out at 90 miles, utterly broken. My quads were no longer working. Forgive me for being graphic, but I've been dealing with, an upset tummy since 30 miles, which have been awful. But looking back, although I'd run the miles as in distance, I'd done the wrong mileage in my training.
Mm.
I got my nutrition plan on race day wrong. And one of the big pieces of advice that I give to people who are perhaps attempting any distance really, whether it be 5K to 100 miles. One of the pieces of advice that I give is don't think in time. What you're thinking is cross the finish line. All that matters is you cross the finish line. What did I do? Oh, I'll get around this in about 28 hours. So
Mm.
what you then start to do is you start to run at the pace your mind is now thinking. That was all wrong.
Not that your body's
Um,
capable of.
Not that you're
Yeah.
capable of, yes.
Mm.
And I fail, and it hurts to this day. But I've been very lucky. I have a I've managed to somehow through the ballot score a place in it again this year, and everything has changed. So I strength train twice a week, but previously that was very static. That's now become very dynamic, more plyometric movement.
Hmm.
Okay.
I'm spending more time in. So I'm talking box jumps here, jumping lunges, etc. I'm spending more time running in the mountains, so I'm getting used to the relentless ascent, and really importantly for me, descents. I struggle with races that have got a lot of descending.
Yeah.
So I'm doing. I've done that more now. I'm in much better shape. I feel much better prepared. I learned so much last time, and while I can't, we all know there are no guarantees. I feel I'm mitigating against what went wrong last time. So I go into it
Okay.
Yeah.
far better prepared,
Yeah.
and I am determined. I will always regret my first DNF, but I am determined that I finish this year. I'll go into it with a different mindset, a different approach, and I am desperate to cross that finish line, and that is showing already in the training that I'm doing. You know, this morning was 22 miles in the mountains with just over 4,000 feet of elevation gain. And as you
Okay.
and I know, running in mountains, it's what the elevation gain is.
Hmm.
Hmm.
It's the really steep and ascents and descents over what is often very technical, rocky ground. So I'm getting far more used to that, and I am
Yeah,
determined that I go back and I got right what went wrong last time. As you'll
that's
know from
great.
reading my book, it's been although there's been ups and downs, I've been on quite an upward trajectory. So
Hmm.
that was a real shock to the system to reach the point where I just had to stop. I never thought that was coming, and it's humbling, and
Yeah.
it's a real lesson in respect the challenge, respect the course, and respect your own ability.
Do you have any place where, like, if anybody was interested in following, like, do you have a blog or I mean, we know you don't have Strava, so,
Yes. Yeah, you do. You have
I do
Strava
now. I
now.
have Strava
oh, you
now.
have,
So you can find me on Strava now. I've only literally 3 weeks ago, somebody said to me, "Look, you really do need to do this because I've been asked so many. I
It's a
would
public
put on
service.
yeah, I
Mhm.
would put something on a Facebook page about I've just run this race, and people would say, "Oh, can I just ask what I looked for you on Strava and you're not there? Can I just
Mm,
ask what training you're doing?" So we've opened it up, and now people can perhaps have a look and see if they're interested in what I'm doing. But I have
yeah.
Instagram. I'm on Instagram, and I'm on Facebook. So yeah, you can find me there, and I often post about what I'm doing with my running. And because I think
So are you very disciplined in like that things from your watch actually get to Strava? Because so I'm on Strava, but half my runs don't exist there because
yeah,
either
yeah,
I forgot to charge my watch battery, so I just kind of ran without a
yeah.
watch, or it died in the middle of the run, or I forgot to turn it off and I got in the car and I drove home, so I deleted it.
So I'm very disciplined with my training period, and so
Yeah.
I need to look
I'm
at what I'm
disciplined with
doing,
my training. I'm just not
where I'm
disciplined with
improving,
recording it.
and that's all part of that. You know what I mean? So having a record of what I'm doing
Okay. So you
is
got good
part of the deal.
Strava data then to follow
Yeah,
currently
yeah.
that.
So it's yeah.
Fantastic.
I like to keep a record of what it is that I'm doing, and yeah. But
Where do you get your training from? Are you sort of
yeah, I
self-educated
don't.
on the
I'm not coached, no.
Mm.
I listen. I read books and articles, and initially I would kind of follow plans quite in a quite structured fashion. But with the maturity and experience I've got now, I tend to do what work more of what works for me. So what I'm doing is maybe a part of what I read there or I heard there, and I bring it into
Hmm.
my training and I work out what's going to work for me. And yeah, and that's what I do. But without rigidly every week, I do a speed session, a
Mhm.
tempo or threshold session, and my long run, and then a couple of easy runs, and then some strength training twice a week. But I always have one day off a week where I do nothing. I
Okay.
feel as I'm getting older, I need that recovery time.
And
And
Hmm.
you walk the dog for cross training.
yeah, yeah, walk the dog for cross training. We walk a lot, so I do a lot of that
That's
for cross
pretty
training.
important.
Yeah,
That's pretty
yeah.
important.
Active recovery.
Yeah,
Mm.
zone one, active
Yeah,
recovery.
yeah.
Yeah.
Active recovery is. So as I said earlier, when I first started out, I would just run it everything at the same pace. There's a real distinction now in my running. So I might run my 800-meter reps at you'll have to vert it yourself, but maybe 5:35 to 5:40 miles, whatever that is in
Nice.
kilometers, and then my easy runs will be at about 7:45 to 8 minute miling. So there's a real difference now, and I think that's huge. That there's a real distinction in
Hmm.
why I'm running, what I'm running for. I always warm up now before running, and I do a lot of stretching. All this stuff never existed in the first half of
Yeah.
my running journey. So this has all changed since the start of our story in the book. This is all what I've learned and put into practice as the
Yeah.
years have gone on. Yeah. So I should say, one of the pieces of advice which I absolutely love when it comes to, I actually do it with trail running, but marathon training is. So I'll do my easy pace Sunday runs, but for the last 2 or 3 miles, I'll pick up the pace to marathon pace and beyond. And it's not just physical. We're trying to train ourselves mentally now. So as I'm leading into that, I start thinking, I'm knackered. This is never going to happen. When I flick the switch and try to pick up that pace, it's not going to happen. And I start to play this game in my head. And so what I do is I get to the last 2 or 3 miles to go. As soon as the watch is clicked over, I don't think. I just go. I just go. And it's a real battle, but it's a battle I have to win. I talk to people about victory isn't just the race day, that's the icing on the cake. We need to be scoring little victories every single week. We need to be pushing ourselves in ways that means that we walk away from the session and think, I nailed that today. And you need to really focus in on that. You did that. You did that
Mm.
today. It's you that
Yeah.
went out there and you went maybe a little faster, a little further, a little higher than you ever did before. Well done, you. And these little victories begin to build, and they build and they build and they build, and they start to make you believe that you might actually be able to pull this off. That leads to confidence. So when we get
Mhm.
to race day, everything should you should be there mentally ready, prepared for what's coming, not just physically, mentally ready for what's coming. I think a lot of people can defeat themselves in their mind, and that comes into pacing because people, if you don't really believe you can run 6:52 minute miling for 26 miles, you go too fast early on because you think, oh no, I'm not going to be able to do it. When I get to the second half of the race, it's not going to be there. If you've prepared yourself, it will be. It really, really will be.
Well, I think also yeah, you have to prepare yourself first, but like you also have to, I mean, it's a little bit of like a blind leap of faith going into the
Yeah,
marathon because the marathon is never, it's not like training for a 5K where you break up the 5K into intervals and you run 5K
yeah,
worth at 5K pace during one training. Like you don't do that for the marathon. And so any marathon, if you're going for like a PB, it's something you've never done, really, and
yeah,
you have to just believe that you can do it. And yeah, your training is a great place for that because I know that, when Alan and I do some of those long marathon pace training sessions, yeah, I mean, when one of them goes well, and you feel like you nailed it and you
yeah,
walk away being like not completely destroyed, it's a good opportunity to sort of like bank that as a little bit of
yeah,
like,
yeah.
okay, well, this is like my little bit of like I got this on race day. Um,
Because I
but
think the further
yeah,
we go, the more it becomes a mental challenge.
yeah.
you can't I don't think you can necessarily physically train to run 100 miles. Everyone, it's very, very
No,
hard
I
to do.
mean not
So
in
at
one
some
training
point,
session like you will do on the race, right? Like
yeah,
that's you don't do that. It's the same as the marathon. You don't run a marathon in training.
yeah. So it's kind of like a certain point, the mind's going to have to take over. When then little voices start saying, "You've done really well. Just stop or just slow down." Everyone will be so impressed with what you've done already. You have to battle that. You have to battle that and keep going. And even if when it gets down to just the next step, break it down to if you really have to, the next step, and just the
Hmm.
step after that and the step after that. But I think that we're tapping more into with people who really know these things, the mental side of sport, and more and more and
Hmm.
more. And I think it's a huge element that perhaps we need to focus more on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think a lot of people like they ignore or sometimes it's not that they're ignoring it, they just like don't realize what an effect it can have. And it can be the little things, like the self-talk that no one else
yeah,
hears but you, but like
yeah.
that's it can have a huge impact on your performance.
Yeah, I agree. And when a coach writes you down, excuse me, a training plan, you focus in on it. It says, "Oh, today I've got to run like this at this pace," and it becomes a mechanical thing almost. But if it's the mental fortitude it took for you to do that. Once you get into it, 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks of your marathon training plan, it's beginning to hurt. You've come this far already. You're doing
Hmm.
so well. If you're searching for that PB, you've already pushed yourself to this level now. How amazing are you? And I think that people need to focus in on that more and be so proud of what they're achieving, and use that to drive them on to the next level, take them
Hmm.
through the next week and the week after that and the week after that. Because if we're chasing PBs, we all know the training is hard because you're going in the training block, not just the race itself. You're going beyond where
Yeah.
you've ever been before,
You
and
have to
that
do
takes
this. You have to
investment,
do
right?
the thing you've never done to get the thing you never had.
Yeah, and so I think that I really think people need to be so proud of what it is they're doing. Whether it's Couch to 5K, whether it's the first time you've done that, or whether it's whatever you're to go faster, higher, longer than you've been before. Be proud of yourself for firstly trying and then committing to it, and hopefully getting the result that you've earned. The race really should be the icing on the cake. You should, if you've got your training right, you should be ready on race day to at least have a real chance of what it is that you're. That's why I look back on my Lakeland one and think I got it all wrong. That's what,
Mm.
and so I ended up with a result that I deserved. Put it right, and hopefully we're gonna get to the end.
Yeah,
Failure was
That's
good.
good.
you'll never have a first DNF ever again.
No, no,
That's you've got it out of the way.
got it out of the way. Yeah, got it out of the way.
No,
Done.
but those are great words and inspiring words for people at all levels, Ash. It's a great way. It's a great way to probably wind up the podcast.
But we should first ask if there's anywhere that you'd like to direct listeners that would like to get a copy of the book.
Oh,
What's the best
sure.
place?
Okay. So it's just my little self-published thing. So if you go on Amazon, and put in Ashley Varley or What If, a running journey from failure to first place, you'll find it there, and it's on Kindle, or you can have a paperback copy. And
Okay.
but can I just say thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. I just love talking running, and clearly
Yeah,
you guys
Yeah.
do too.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
we
so
like
it was,
talking running too, so
It's
it's
been
been
a
like a
similarly it's been a pleasure for us as well. We get bored with talking to each other.
Yeah, because we already know what we think. Alan's like, "Oh, I'm not going to talk to you about trails because I know what you think about that."
It's it's always inspiring to talk to other people who've got other views, but I think particularly today, you resonate with us, Ash. So
oh,
we
bless you.
thank
I
you for that.
finished. I think I'm paraphrasing slightly, but the last line in my book, I think I wrote, "I'll never again have to think what if," and anyone can do that. If you really feel you want to try and achieve whatever it is you want to, then I say go for it. You really
Mhm.
don't know what will happen if you just try.
So let's give our views. What If by Ashley Varley. Quick comment. The book features lots of run descriptions of both road and trail, which is for me fantastic. People know that I like that stuff. Um, Most of these are in the south of England, so I guess if you're particularly interested in going and running in the south of England, or if you already do that, you will love this book. In fact, it becomes a must read for you if you're interested in running in the southern areas of England. There's something we've not mentioned. There's a section of color photos in the middle depicting some of the key moments in the book, which is a good addition. We really appreciate that, and it's good. You kind of read it and then you look at the photo, go, ah, yeah, there he is. He's starting his journey. Look how more cuddly he looks in the first photograph versus I'm trying to do the politically correct thing here. Um, and
I don't know,
or
Alan.
there he is in
You're
that
failing.
event. Okay, forget it. Moving on. Okay, screwed it up. I think the thing that's clear in our talk and it's clear in the book is Ash is not an elite runner, but he sets about trying to maximize his results and get the most out of the talents that he's given. And I think in some occasions he succeeds beyond his wildest dreams, I think. And I think that's appealing to runners of all abilities at all levels. Once you've started, you want to do that. So, reading about Ash doing that, you could go, oh, oh, I live in North America. I'm never going to run the Hastings Marathon. That's not the point. The point is this guy is taking the skills that he has and trying to deliver it to 100.0% into his event, or whatever that is. And I think reading about that is what the true beauty of the story is.
So, yeah, I guess Alan summarized it well. I'm gonna just first start by saying we probably should have interviewed Ash a little bit earlier, like just a few weeks ago, maybe, like before Alan went to London Marathon, so that, they could maybe maybe Ash could have given him all the tips
Yeah,
of things
could have got a good
that
briefing.
yeah, you could have like kept your eyes open for, if there was some kind of lake that you're gonna run by or something that you might miss.
Yeah. Ash
Since
doesn't know the reference there, but um, there's a lake in the route of the Boston Marathon, and I've run Boston 7 times. And we talked to somebody about the Boston Marathon, and he said, "Oh, when you go past the lake," and I said, "There's no lake." He
Me
said,
too. I
"Yeah,
said there's
yeah,
no
yeah, there's
lake.
a lake." I said, "There's no lake. I've run Boston 7 times. There's no lake. There's a lake, basically."
Yeah. On
I,
the
I,
eighth
I
time,
I
Alan
just
was
managed to
like,
miss it. It's huge. It's massive. You run about 2 kilometers along the side of it. I'd never
"Oh,
seen it. Crazy. Okay, so that's the
yeah,
reference. Back to you.
yeah. Anyway, back to me. So I guess I'll just comment about the title. I like the title "What If," because it represents the idea that we don't know what we're really capable of until we really try. And like really try, because sometimes we say we're trying, but we're maybe not trying as hard as we could. The book is about Ash's running, but I think a lot of us could sort of use that strategy, what if, but apply to a lot of other life goals. So in that way, it's very transferable. I like that Ash is proof that you don't need to put yourself in a box either. So like the fact that he's just very open about saying like he loves the trails and he loves the road and he loves them for different reasons. So, he's a competitive road runner. He likes to run fast, but he likes the trails because he likes the people and running with others. And so it's great that we find someone that isn't in one category or the other. They just like both. They're just happy to like both. I'm not from the UK, so typical problem with me is, like some of the names of places and things. My brain just kind of glazes over because I don't even know if I'm pronouncing them right in my head. But it's fine because it's mostly running. So, it's really just a book about a runner's experiences that I think a lot of us can relate to. Just trying and sometimes getting the result you want, sometimes not getting the result you want, sometimes surprising yourself. And that's really what the journey is about. So
Good stuff.
yeah. I didn't comment about the cover photo and neither did you, but
Oh no.
the cover is quite nice. It's like a kind of like a mix. It's like a trail track mix with some elements from the London Marathon in the
Has a
background.
track, it has a city, and it has some mountains, and it
Yeah,
has some London references
pretty cool.
all on the front.
Hmm.
Outro time.
Go ahead, Alan. I'll leave it to you.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Running Book Reviews. A big thanks to Ash for spending time with us today and for providing review copies of his self-published book. If you'd like to leave us feedback about how we can improve the podcast or want to suggest a book that you'd like us to review in future episodes, please leave us a comment on social media. We are Running Book Reviews on Facebook and Instagram, and on Twitter or X, we are reviews_running. Please also follow us on social media to find out about new episodes when they're released, or you can just subscribe to the podcast on your favorite streaming platform. If you've been listening to us for a while and wondering how you can help, let me tell you the few ways that we've thought of. If you're enjoying the podcast, spread the word. Send your friends a link to your favorite episode. If you know a running partner, tell them about our podcast. Mention it when you get a chance. We'd like to spread the word on our podcast. You can also leave us a review on Apple Podcast or a rating out of 5 stars on Spotify. We really appreciate reviews. We are also on a platform called Buy Me a Coffee, where you can go to buymeacoffee.com, look up a creator called Running Book Reviews, that's us, and you'll see various outtakes and little snippets and conversationals and some of my writing. I've kind of got this theoretical ambition of having a book one day, so I've started sort of dropping some stories in there. And you can see
I'm perfectly happy just reading your book, Alan.
and you can is that you telling me that you haven't read my stories on Buy Me a Coffee? Is that what you're telling me?
No, I read your stories on
You
Buy
can
Me a
also
Coffee,
see
but I'll read
Liz's
your book.
wedding photographs on Buy Me a Coffee.
I forgot those were
It's
there.
it's a little way back, but it's quite fun. She's the only person I know who got married in running shoes.
Hey, they were pink with hearts.
Very nice. Great stuff.
And
Okay.
I got them for Valentine's Day.
Enough of the conversation. That's all now for now from Running Book Reviews. Bye for now.
Nah, nobody listens this far anyway. Bye.